Yeah, kindly turn on your videos. Please turn on your videos. We'll get started with our session now. We'll see whether we have a lag in our audio or video. If there's any lag or any the video, if the session is going slowly, then probably I might ask you all to turn off your video. Yeah, good evening, all of you. We'll get started with our session. Today, I'm going to teach you a concept which is not a part of your syllabus, but in one way, you should be familiar with this when you're going for programming.
Sir,
Yes, please.
can we just record the session? So if we need...
I'm not sure whether I'm giving permission for recording as yet. I'll give a thought to it. I'm recording the session at my end. Okay, so rest assured. We are speaking about software. You see, when you're taking your step into the world of programming in Java, there are some basic terms which you should be familiar with. And today I intend to introduce you to these terms, starting with software. I hope you are able to see my screen. Software refers to a set of programs. That means a few programs or many programs together make software. Now, what is a program? In order to understand software properly, we need to first understand what is a program. Program is a set of instructions written in a language understood by the computer to perform a specific task. This is the definition of a program. That means when you write a few lines, at times maybe a few lines, at times maybe many lines, and these lines you are writing in a language that the computer understands, and the purpose you're writing these lines is so that you can get a particular task done from the computer. That means you want to do a particular task, and in order to do that particular task, you're writing lines in a language that the computer understands, and collectively these lines help you to get some task done from the computer. This set of lines is called a program. And when you write many such programs, in order to be able to do many different tasks done from the computer, when you write many such programs, I repeat, to get many tasks done from the computer, it is called as software. For example, I'm writing a small program in a very simple language, in a language which is very popular nowadays, called as Python. I'm writing print A plus. On the next line, I'm writing print computers. And on the third line, I'm writing print education. This is a sample program written in Python. The purpose of this small program is to print A plus on one line, computer on the next line, education on the third line. These three lines can be called as three instructions that we want to give to the computer. These instructions are written in a language called Python. It is one language that the computer understands. And the task that we want to perform is to print A plus on one line, computer on the second line, and education on the third line. So this set of instructions, this set of three lines is called a program. Though this is a very simple program, in the commercial world, you would not be doing, you would not be writing such simple programs. But obviously, when students learn programming, when you learn programming, you have to start learning programming from very simple programs. So assume this is a particular task that we want to do. And similarly, when we write many small programs or big ones, collectively these set of programs is called a software. Now here we are starting our course, starting to learn Java programming. So obviously we'll be writing such small programs in Java language. And when we slowly and steadily write one program, the second one, the third one, and likewise, similarly, when we write many such programs, then at a particular stage, a programmer can link these programs to each other and make something called as a software. This linking of programs to each other and making a software is not a part of your syllabus in the 9th standard. So you need not worry about that. You will be writing individual programs. You will be learning to write individual small programs. What do I mean by written in a language understood by the computer? Well, just as we human beings have different languages to communicate with each other, there are languages, specific languages that the computer understands. Some of these languages are QBasic, QuickBasic, C, C++, Java, Python, R programming. These are names of some languages which the computer understands. I'm now going to share a very important sentence with you. Software makes hardware work. Now, when you enter the field of computers, I would say this is the very first principle that you have to understand and remember. I would expect you to remember this principle very, very thoroughly and never forget it. That is, whatever we want the computer to do for us. When I say computer, I'm referring to hardware, the machinery. It is going to be able to do it for us only with the help of software. That means we cannot do anything on the computer without the help of software. And when I'm referring to software, in one sense, I'm also referring to programs, because many programs to put together is called as software. So remember this particular point very, very well. This first principle of learning computers, that is, software makes hardware work. I repeat, when I'll put this sentence in one more way. I'll put it as like program makes the computer work. That means when I was referring to software, directly or indirectly, I'm referring to program. And when I'm referring to hardware, the computer machinery, okay, hardware means the computer machinery, I'm referring to the computer itself. Have you understood this, please? Will you please reply in the chat box? Do you have any doubts about this, please? Yeah, please turn your videos on, please. That is what I had requested in the beginning of the session. Gargi. Now we're going to speak about the next concept, programming languages. That's the next topic we're going to speak about. A computer is meant to do specific tasks. That means the computer is supposed to do tasks for us. In order to get these tasks done from the computer, we have to communicate with it in a language that it understands, and this language is called as programming language. I repeat, to get our tasks done from the computer, we have to communicate with it in a language that it understands, and this is called as programming language. Now we're going to speak about levels of languages. This topic you can understand as levels of languages, or you can also understand it as types of languages. Types of programming languages. The very first language that the computer understood was machine language. I repeat, the very first language in which programs were written was machine language. This was a language where the entire program was written in the form of zeros and ones. These zeros and ones are called as binary digits. We would not go into the details of this particular thing. What are binary digits? Probably you might have learned about binary digits at some point of time in your schooling. But even if you are not clear about it, or you don't very well remember it, you need not worry about it. This was the oldest language. This was the first language that the computer understood. This was a language where the entire program was written in zeros and ones. This language was very difficult to learn, very difficult to use. But the only advantage of this language was the programs written in this language were directly understood by the computer. The computer could directly understand this language. So this was called as the machine language. This language was very difficult to learn and use. There is a specific reason why we are speaking about machine language. You'll understand me. You might be wondering, this was the oldest language. Obviously, we are not using it now. Why are we speaking about this language? In some way, we are concerned about it. We have to speak about it with you. The next was assembly language. At the next stage, the computer was able to understand assembly language. This was a language where abbreviations were used to give instructions to the computer. I repeat, this was a language in which abbreviations were used to give instructions to the computer. That means if we wanted to do a task where we want to add two numbers, we would use the abbreviation add. If we wanted to subtract numbers, we would use the abbreviation sub. Or if you want to use to multiply, okay, divide. In this way, there were lots of abbreviations which we had to remember and use while writing a program. Next came the high level language. Before proceeding to high level language, let me tell you, the languages, machine language and assembly language are also regarded as low level languages. I repeat, machine language and assembly language are also regarded as low level languages, whereas now we're going to speak to you about high level languages. High level languages are languages where we would use English words and mathematical symbols to give instructions to the computer. I repeat, English words and mathematical symbols were used to give instructions to the computer. This language is very easy to learn and use. And the languages like C, C++, Java that we are learning, Python, are amongst high-level languages. These, as I said, these languages are very easy to learn and very easy to use. Examples I'm giving of these languages: C, C++, Java. But there is one limitation of these languages. The computer cannot understand these languages. Now you might be wondering, what am I speaking about? We are here to learn Java language. We are about to start learning Java language, and on the other hand, I'm saying the computer does not understand this language. Then why are we learning this language? Well, we are learning this language Java or C or C++ because these languages are easy to learn and easy to use. In these languages, we use English words, we use mathematical symbols. But what is the advantage of learning these languages when the computer can't understand it? Then which is the language that the computer understands even today? The computer understands machine language. I repeat, yes, even today the computer understands machine language. And we are learning high-level languages. We are learning a high-level language, Java. Now let me tell you the link. Why are we learning Java? And why is it that the computer, why are we learning Java when the computer understands machine language? Well, I said that we are learning Java because Java is a very simple language to learn and use. And we make use of something called as translators. I repeat, we use some software. We use software called translators, which help us to translate our program from Java language into machine language. I repeat, though we are learning languages like Java, C, C++ today, these are high-level languages. These are languages where we use English words and mathematical symbols. But the computer today understands only machine language. So what we do is, after writing our program in Java language, we use some software called as translators, with the help of which we translate our program from Java language into machine language. And then we hand over this program of machine language to the computer, and the computer executes it. I repeat, we hand over our program in machine language to the computer, and the computer executes it. Yes, Mahek, you have raised your hand, please. You can put forward your...
So the computer does not even understand assembly language?
Let me tell you one thing. Assembly language was the second level of language that the computer understood. Assembly language was a language where abbreviations were used. And yes, as you asked me, even when at the stage when we were using assembly language, the computer did not understand assembly language. At that time also, the computer understood machine language only. And even around that time, there were some translators available which would take our program from assembly language and convert it into machine language and give it to the computer. Yes, even the computer did not understand assembly language directly, and there was a need to translate our programs from assembly language to machine language. Similarly, when today we are using high-level languages, let me tell you, if you are using C language, you need a translator which will specially convert C language into machine language for you. If you are using C++ language, you need a separate translator to convert C++ to machine language. And today, if you are learning Java language, you need a different translator. I will name it. The BlueJ software that you are going to install, you're going to use, is basically a translator which will help you to convert your programs written in Java language into machine language. And that is when the computer will be able to understand it and execute my instructions, follow my instructions. So your BlueJ software, basically this concept that I'm doing with you today is coming to the stage where we're going to understand what is BlueJ. You're going to learn Java with BlueJ. So you need a background about BlueJ. You need an understanding of what is BlueJ. BlueJ is basically the translator which helps you to convert your program in Java language into machine language. You are writing your programs in Java language because you are learning Java language as a part of your 9th standard syllabus. You are learning Java language because it is simple, easy to learn, easy to use. But even today, the computer understands only machine language. And that is where the role of BlueJ software comes in. It helps us, it actually translates our program from Java language into machine language. I hope you got an understanding of why am I discussing this topic today with you, please. Though what would happen is in most other cases, people will directly start teaching BlueJ, but without you having a thorough understanding of why we are using the software BlueJ in the first place. BlueJ is your translator. So we have given you an understanding of what the translators do. They help us to convert program in one language into another language. There are separate translators for each language. For C, there's a separate translator. For C++, you need a separate translator. For Java, you need a separate translator. Now we'll speak about, I'll introduce you to some other terms which I expect you to be clear about while learning programming. And this term is source program. Now what do we mean by a source program? A program written in high level language, or it could be, I could say, Java language by the user is called source program. I repeat, the program that I would be writing while teaching you, the program that you would be writing in Java language is source program. I remind you, this program is not going to be understood by the computer directly. The computer understands machine language, but we are writing the program in Java language, and this program that we would be writing in Java language is source program. Next is the term object program. Program translated by the translator from high level language, that could be Java or any other language, into machine language. Is called object program. I repeat, we'll give our source program to the translator. The translator will take our source program, which is in Java language, and translate it into machine language and give me a new program, give me another program, another file. This other program is called as object program. I repeat again, the program that a programmer will write in Java language is the source program. This program of ours, we hand it over to the translator, give to the translator. The translator converts it for us into machine language. And this program, which the translator has translated into machine language, is called as object program. Let me tell you, these two terms, source program and object program, are very, very common terms. You know, now I'm basically introducing you to terms, certain terms which very commonly will be used by us in the process of learning the Java language. And these are some common terms like source program, object program, translator, high-level language. Now I introduced you to some other terms, that is syntax errors, or we also called it as syntactical error. And you have logical error. Do you have any doubts about what we have done till now, please? Or you have any queries before I go further to these two terms? Anybody has any query?
No, sir.
Am I clear to everybody?
No, sir.
Tell me, were you clear about these terms, or are these terms new to you all, please? Have you heard about these
So some of them.
at some given time in your schooling?
No,
Yes, so
sir.
we're learning it right
Yeah.
now in school.
Sorry, I'm not getting it clearly. One by one, can you comment? One by one. Gargi, any comment? Mehak?
So we are currently learning all these.
Sorry, once again. You are currently learning all these.
Yeah.
So program, object program, you're currently learning as a part of your 9th standard syllabus.
So not object program. They've in high level language they've taught us pop and ops.
I didn't get you. In high level language, they have taught you what?
Oops program
Oops,
and
programming.
yeah, object oriented programming, and they've taught us pops.
Okay. So we are still at a very basic level. Okay. We are not in a hurry. Let me tell you, I'm not in a hurry I'm teaching you concepts which are at a very basic level. And I expect, I think that these things have to be very, very clear with you. We are now proceeding to the two other terms, syntax error and logical error. And let me tell you very frankly, when I say basic, I'm very clear about your syllabus of 9th standard. And I'm trying to go right from the scratch. Though in your books, in your textbooks, at one given time, I'll be sharing with you, maybe this session or the next session, I'll be sharing with you the chapters. I've taken the images, scanned the pages from your textbook. I'll be sharing them with you. But let me tell you, I would be having my own sequence about going through the chapters. And believe me, 200% that the sequence I'm going to be following will be absolutely favorable for you in terms of understanding the subject. You see, it's like this, Ki. I would just give you an example. You know, when I saw your textbook and I saw the first chapter and the third chapter, I very well remember an example in my childhood days. We very well knew swimming, and we used to go to a swimming pool. And we had taken a friend of ours along with us to go for the swimming pool, who was joining us for the first time. He had no knowledge of swimming. So what we did, we all were actually very excited. Many of us who knew swimming, we just came out of the gate. That is the gate which led to the locker room to the swimming pool, from the locker room to the swimming pool, and we jumped into the pool. We are somewhere 4 to 5 feet into the water, and one of our friend who didn't know swimming was also very excited, and he jumped along with us into the water. Unfortunately, he knew no swimming, but luckily we were close by and we tried to help him to, take him to a safer place. The fact is, some of our chapters in your textbook in the beginning are making you jump directly into that pool, and I know that probably that then I was a child, and many of us were children. We didn't know how to go about. and we didn't know our friend is going to follow us and jump into the water. But at this age, we very well know what we are supposed to do and how we are supposed to go with our subject of Java, because we've been taking it for a very, very long time. And it's not about Java alone, C, C++, and many other programming languages. We are very clear about how we are supposed to go through. So that's in following that pattern, I'm teaching you these terms. I'm proceeding now to syntax and syntactical errors. Every instruction in a programming language, every instruction has to be written in a specific format. And while writing that instruction, while writing that line, you have to follow some rules given to you by the language that you're learning. When you follow those rules and write the line properly, you have not made any syntax error. But if you make some mistake in the rules and you make some mistake in writing that line as per the rules, what you have made is called a syntax error or a syntactical error. Example, I'm writing a statement in Java, a line in Java, a very common line, one of the very first lines you're going to learn. System.out.println, and I want to print welcome, and at the end I have to put the semicolon. Now you might develop a curiosity of understanding what is system, what is out, what is println, what is semicolon, why all the brackets. Don't worry about all that now. But this semicolon is necessary. So if I forget a semicolon in this statement of Java, what I have committed is a syntax error. Okay, I gave semicolon, but I forgot to put the double quotes, which is the word welcome. I've enclosed double quotes. You forget to put that double quotes. Again, I made a syntax error. If I forget to put the round brackets over there, parentheses or round brackets as they're called, again I made a syntax error. So it's called a syntax or syntactical error. The dot which I put in between system and out, the dot which we have put in between dot out and println, if I forget that, that again is a syntax error. So I repeat, there are some rules I have to follow while writing the instructions. When I forget some rule, or if I don't follow some rule, what I have made is a syntax error. So this is a small introduction to syntax error that I've given. Now I'm coming to logical error. I'll give you one more example of syntax error for which I'm going to write a statement. The statement I'm writing is 5 plus 10. Say I want to add two numbers 5 and 10 and see the result. Okay, this is not a complete statement I've written. Just focus on 5 plus 10. I want to add two numbers. No, I was supposed to write 5 plus 10, but by mistake I wrote it as $5.10. I was supposed to give the symbol plus in between, but by mistake I put the symbol dollar, which is a wrong symbol for this kind of operation. I might write plus, I might write minus, I might write multiply, I might write divide, one of these four symbols for addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. But I gave altogether a different symbol. In this case, what I've committed is a syntax error. Now coming to logical error, I wanted to do 5 plus 10. I had that 5 plus 10 in my mind. I wanted to write that in the program, but hurriedly I wrote it as 5 minus 10. I wrote it as 5 minus 10. Now 5 plus 10, we very well know the answer is 15, but 5 minus 10, the answer is minus 5. I would get wrong answer. Let me tell you, the mistake that I have committed over here is a logical error. In case of logical error, my translator, what during the process of translation, will not point out to me this logical error. I repeat, the translator will not point out to me this particular error. If you're wondering, what about the syntax error? My translator, when it sees something like this, it will flash an error to me. It will convey an error to me. It will tell me that there is a syntax error in this line $5.10. That means I'm trying to say that the translator can point out to me syntax errors, but the translator will not point out to me logical errors. Now, why? When the translator sees this 5 minus 10, it will find it absolutely correct. It would not understand that as the user wanted to add the two numbers, and by mistake the user has written subtracted the two numbers. The translator would not know that. The translator would find this absolutely correct and normal and will not point out to me any logical error. The only limitation would be it would give me the result as -5. It would give me wrong results. So the reason for me to discuss this topic is that the translators can detect syntax errors. A BlueJ translator will detect syntax errors, but it would not detect logical errors. And then if you're wondering how are we going to find logical errors, the programmer himself has to find out the logical errors. The translator can help him to find the syntax error, but not logical errors. Logical errors are supposed to be found by the programmer himself. So logical errors are errors in the logic of the program, and syntax errors are errors in the syntax of the program. Translators can find syntax errors, but translators cannot find logical errors. Have you understood me, please? Translators are of two types. Interpreter and compiler. I repeat, translators are of two types, interpreter and compiler. I'm not going to go into the discussion of what is the difference between interpreter and compiler. Let me tell you, at this point of time, I wouldn't have spoken also about this particular topic to you, only because in the textbook it is mentioned that I've seen reference of compiler, that I'm introducing these terms to you, interpreter and compiler. I would prefer to explain it to you at a reasonable time, the difference between the interpreter and compiler. As of now, I only expect you to understand that interpreter and compiler are translators, and their basic task is to convert Java language into machine language. Their basic task is to convert one language into any high level language into machine language. At some reasonable time, as I said, I'll tell you what is an interpreter, how it works, and how the compiler works. This is a bit of theory I wanted to do with you today. Now I'll do something practically, some practical concept I would like to do. Before I start off with my practical discussion, do you have any query about this? I'll be giving you notes on this, don't worry about it. Do you have any query? I'm waiting for your response, please. Gargi, Riddhi, I have no response from you today. Are you all there? Are you all with me? Have you all understood? Do you have any doubts?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, okay. Uh, just give me a moment. I would like to have some water. Just give me a moment. I'll just hide my video. I'm first showing you how are you going to download the software